Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Fan Talk. As you can tell, it's a little different around here. There's two faces. My good friend Logan Burton is here on the show to talk about some great things, a new surprise, a little different twist to the episode today. We'll for sure get into that. It should be real fun. Um, yeah, like I said, we're going to do things a little differently today, but still, Fan Talk is your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. That is me, Kyle Brenchley. And yeah, you can find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I think a lot of people like the video version, so if you like that, go to YouTube or Spotify. But I'm also on Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio. I'm there, so go check me out. Go give me a like. Go give me a follow. And today we're going to be talking about something a little different than my typical episodes. We're gonna stop. We're gonna put pause on some of the things we're talking about. We'll get to that later. But this is a special edition episode, and a special edition episode comes along with a special guest, and again, that is Logan Burton. So, Logan, welcome back to the show. The true fans, the true people who follow me would recognize you because you've been in
Yeah.
multiple videos and episodes across multiple topics in the past. I was actually on your podcast first, originally a couple years ago, and then since then we've just kind of
Oh, yeah.
bounced back and forth
Yeah.
with some fun
hmm
things. But
Well,
for those,
unlike you, I never kept up my podcast. That one died pretty quickly.
man, I like that one. That one was very clever because you would talk about things that never had even crossed my mind, things I had never thought about.
Yeah, they never crossed my mind either. I mean, for context, this was a podcast about. We would invite me and my friend Jonathan. We would invite a special guest to talk about some sort of trivia that they really liked. And I believe for you it was Scooby Doo, right?
Yep, the Scooby Doo
Yeah, it was
episode.
Scooby Doo. It was a great episode. I don't think we ever uploaded it though,
No,
unfortunately.
it never aired. It never
Yeah,
aired.
yeah, it was a little too saucy for the airwaves.
Oh man, yeah. So I mean, we've had some fun on there, and then of course we kind of dinked around on my dating podcast for a little bit, and now we're crossing over into the realm of sports. So I mean, you have been around, but for those, I mean, despite my small following, I still get unique viewers and listeners every episode. So
hmm
so kind of introduce yourself, maybe explain why you wanted to come on the show today, and maybe share what we're going to be talking about a little bit today.
Yeah, eight true fans. Is that how many good listeners you have?
I probably have a solid 8 people who like consistently listen.
Well, that's eight people. I think people will shoot that down, but eight is eight, right?
Hey, I'll
Um,
take whatever I can get.
yeah. So my name's Logan. I've been friends with Kyle for over a decade now, since middle school. So it's been quite a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah,
So we grew up together, um, and but we kind of we've gone on our separate ways. I'm currently now living in Washington D.C. And I would never have ever considered myself an athlete of any kind. I'm not a naturally athletically inclined person. Never was good at team sports and stuff like that. But when I moved here to DC, I had a lot of free time on my hands because I didn't have a lot of friends to begin with. So did a lot of working out, a lot of running, a lot of biking. And so that got me into kind of a weird fitness journey that has lasted these 2 years that I've been living here. Last year I ran a marathon, and this year I'm planning to do a triathlon, which is, I believe, what Kyle wants to talk about with me here. And so it's been a fun experience.
fun experience, huh? I whenever I tell people that I run or do anything like that, and maybe you've encountered this, um, and this is actually a big reason why I like to run and I like to do these hard things, is because most people out there wouldn't say it's fun. Most people are like, dude, what the heck? Like that's crazy. Like running sucks. Like why would you enjoy that? And I'm just curious. You mentioned, yeah, obviously once you moved to DC, you really got into it. What was there anything specific, or what exactly got you into training for marathons and triathlons?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of That's a fun story. It's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But before I moved out here to DC, I worked for a venture capital fund that did investments in affordable housing, and that kind of got me into the whole urban planning space. How do you properly plan a city that's livable for people? And the thing about a lot of cities, especially on kind of anywhere west of DC and the Eastern Seaboard, is that it's very car heavy, and so you get around everywhere using a car. And so a lot of Americans just don't do a lot of physical exercise. If they want to go to the grocery store, they're not going to walk there, they're not going to bike there, they're just going to take their car. So when I moved here to DC, I was kind of aware that like I'm not going to have a car. I'm going to be a lot more physically active, and that's kind of like one of my goals. So I tried out biking for a little bit, and I just bought one of those city bikes that were kind of slow, and I ended up really really liking that. So much so that like 2 weeks after I just started riding those slow bikes, I got a whole road bike. And there, it's if you ever ridden a road bike after spending your entire life riding like a hybrid, it's like trading in your Camry for like a Bugatti. It's like a massive speed difference, and it's kind of thrilling. So I got kind of addicted to that. I started riding a lot, and then naturally, I think I just started picking up running as a sort of addendum to that. Um, Last year I had gone through a bit of a breakup, and I had felt like maybe as a sort of comeback I should run a marathon. So that's what I committed myself to doing. Um, so I did that marathon, and naturally I thought, I already bike, I already run. Why not do a triathlon? I have a good friend who I run into in the metro a lot, and she told me that she was doing a triathlon, and I kind of impulsively signed up for it as well. So that's kind of how I got to the point where I am. So a lot of small things kind of fell together, but I didn't initially start off this whole workout fling that I've had through wanting to like lose weight or wanting to improve my physical situation. It just kind of fell out and turned out that way.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's it's interesting how people get to where they are. But as for the triathlon, is it a sprint triathlon?
It will be an Olympic triathlon.
Okay, so it's an Olympic one.
Yeah.
Um, I did pull up because for those who don't know, and I didn't know that there was this many, but I pulled up a list of there's different types of triathlon, different distances. So the Olympic one, from what I see, is so you swim 1.5 kilometers, you bike 40 kilometers, and then you run a 10K. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in our imperial system, that's about a mile swim, about 24 miles on the bike, and then 6 miles
Yeah.
of running in the end.
Dang,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's real impressive because obviously, it's a three-pronged attack. I'm definitely like a runner, but I've never really gotten to biking. I'm not a strong swimmer. I know how to swim, but I wouldn't say like I'm a strong swimmer by any means. Do you feel like you have a strength in any of those? Which one do you think is going to be
Uh,
the easiest? Which one do you think is going to be the most challenging?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily good at any of them per se. Probably not as good as my competitors, but biking would probably be my strongest, followed by running with a second, and then swimming is definitely my weakest. That's been the thing that's worried me the most. I'll be swimming in a lake in the middle of July in Virginia, which is one of the most hellish things you could do to yourself. Um, but swimming is the thing that concerns me the most, and having done trainings for swimming that is about a mile in length, it's really really hard. There's not a lot of things that can distract you. You can't put on any headphones. It's just you and the water and your brain telling you how tired you feel. But once you push through that, the swimming's done. It's good.
Yeah, so you have been swimming in what, like pools, or have you been training the water side?
Just a pool, just a pool.
Just a
There's a
pool.
pool
Yeah.
just a couple blocks away from where I live.
Uh-huh.
And then my biking and my running regimen has been about the same, and that part I'm not too concerned about because I've done those distances many times before already. I think the hard part would just be transitioning from one sport to the other right after each other. And um, I haven't read much about transitioning, but I imagine it's just taking off your clothes really quickly and then jumping onto your bike or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've seen some triathlons where like yeah, you're like running from the pool to the bike or the bike to the run.
Hmm.
Do you know the order in which the events are going to go for this one?
Yeah, so it'll be the swim first, and then the bike, and then the running, which is usually
Okay,
how it goes. So pretty standard.
very nice, very nice. Um, when is it? When is it? Is it coming up?
Yeah, it's gonna be late July,
Late
July
July.
28th. So this is the funny thing. I think it's funny that you asked me to do this podcast because I virtually know nothing about the triathlon. It's my friend who knows most of it. I just know it's happening later next month. I've kind of found that was the same way with my marathon. I didn't really care about it until the very last couple weeks or so.
You knew you wanted to do it. You knew that it was going to happen, and then everything else just kind of
Yeah, I
kind of
mean, why
was
psych
background.
yourself out? Don't I don't
Yeah.
know. It's yeah. I don't know. I'm like I don't know if I'll be as proud of doing this triathlon as I am with my other accomplishments. I think when I completed the marathon, I was happy to see my friends there, and I cried a little because it was good to see some good people there.
Mhm.
But like I don't know, I'm not like waving around my medal everywhere, and I don't think I'll be the same way with this triathlon either. So why
Yeah.
psych
Well,
yourself out for it? Just when it comes, it comes. Obviously, you train, but it
yeah.
happens. It happens.
I mean, you bring up a very good point because once you get to like these long distance or these really hard events, you don't really try to win. Like there's a very small percent of people who actually try to win these, and those are like these super athletes who have been like training for years and years and years. Really, like when you go run a half marathon or a marathon, like you're not there to like win. Like, like,
Yeah,
like, first off,
yeah,
it's very unlikely that you win, and second of all, it's like it takes just so much work, both physically and mentally. Like your goals, your end goal is pretty much just to finish.
yeah,
Is to pretty
yeah.
much to accomplish it. Maybe you have a time goal you want to hit. Maybe you're doing this for a cause or for a person or whatever. But
Hmm.
that's what I like about kind of these bigger events is that there is not the pressure of winning. There's not the as much pressure to really perform or to show up. You know what I mean? Like it's really just an individual thing, or whatever the goal or whatever the purpose is. It's I feel like it means more than just trying to win.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like winning only goes so far at the end of the day, and some of these other goals of I can do this hard thing if I can run a marathon or if I can do a triathlon, then there's so many other doors that can be open to me that hard things that I can do. So that's
Hmm.
what I personally really like that aspect about these longer races or these more physically tough things that challenge you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why they're called endurance sports, right? It's unless you're like competing at like incredibly high level where you're competing for the Olympics or the Tour de France. For most people, it's a competition against themselves, and it's cheesy to say that it's as much of a as a mental thing as it is a physical thing, right? It's a lot about kind of building up your mental fortitude and being able to prove to yourself that you can endure something that is very painful and very hard. In many ways, I think it really develops my discipline. And I think having a marathon or a triathlon or any sort of distance is kind of a milestone to celebrate, right? Something like a 5K is a pretty arbitrary distance, but I think we give ourselves those arbitrary little markers because for somebody who's just learning how to run for the first time, getting into the first time, doing something like that is like a very tangible marker of them doing something that's kind of hard for them. And that's why I like these sports, is that it builds character. As much as I hate to say that, it builds character.
It does. It does.
Hmm.
And people ask me all the time, like why do you do it? And I mean,
Hmm.
everyone has their reasons, and to each their own. But I like that. I like that idea that it's something that is hard. It's something that pushes you. It's something that helps you in other areas. I think that last one is maybe, I don't know if it's the biggest driving force, but it's definitely a driving force for me to do it, because I know a lot of people won't do it. And so
Hmm.
I'm like, if I can do this hard thing, if I can do something that other people aren't willing to do, then that gives me the confidence to go out and do other things, other hard things, and be able to just be a well-rounded individual. And so yeah, I really like that aspect personally. I'm also, and I don't want to be too I don't want to toot my own horn here, but like I feel like I have some natural ability when it comes to running. I'm a
Yeah.
pretty, like, my figure, like I'm just like tall and skinny, so like I feel like I'm naturally, I have some advantages there. And so I think I'm all for playing into like your natural gifts. So that's another thing that if running comes natural, and if it doesn't, I think actually more people who running doesn't come natural to run like half marathons and triathlons and marathons than those who don't, or those who do, because of the reasons we said earlier about the goals they chase and the accomplishment.
Hmm.
Because when I ran my half marathon, and I wore the shirt today, the cool shirt from St. George half marathon that I'm doing again,
Yeah.
like I was like, it was just like all sorts of people that were running
Hmm.
it. Like I was running with people my age. I was running with people that were middle age. I was running with people that were 60, 70 years old, people who looked like they were runners, people who looked like they weren't, people who were barely shuffling along, and people who were actually like really into it with like their different gels and their
Hmm.
water bottle and their
Hmm.
visor. They've been training for years for this, so it was a very unique and inclusive experience. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like when I did my triathlon, sorry, when I did my marathon, it was I was like I wasn't like, by all means I wasn't like one of the last, but I was like, I think I was definitely lagging towards a lot of people. I mean, this was about hour 4 and mile 20, and it felt like I was on the Bataan Beth March. So it was hot outside, and when you just like look around, you would think like, if I'm at this 4 hour mark, then probably everyone else is probably like not physically fit. Maybe they're a little bit on the bigger side, but no, I mean, they were like, there are people all sorts. There are like women with very slim figures that looked like they could run like a gazelle. There were these like muscle T guys, with massive muscles. I mean, everyone was struggling, and so that was kind of a nice sort of reassurance that, again, like these sports aren't for competition, but also like for a lot of these people, none of this comes naturally. I don't think running or doing any sort of endurance sport comes very naturally for somebody, but it's about the pursuit of doing something that you're not naturally good at. Right. I'm not a natural born runner, but I can run a decent. I can do a decent pace for a 10K, and for me, that's just like a very direct. Um, like I like these sports because it's like a direct sort of correlation, as in a causation rather. If you put into the work, then you will see some results, right? Whereas other things, so many other things in life, it's not quite like that. There's just a lot of luck and randomness that apply, right? Sometimes you'll succeed without really not quite knowing why. But with sports, it's like pretty direct. Like you get what you get out of it,
well,
what
yeah,
you put in it.
especially with in this case, what we're talking about here with long distance runs or triathlons. It's you. You are the person,
Mhm.
In some other sports, like basketball, soccer, baseball, it's a team sport. And so, I mean, even if you're doing the best you can, like you can't, there's so many things you can't control. But with these individual sports where it's you against yourself, there's so much more control in what you're able to put out. If you're willing to put in the work, or whatever it is you're working towards, it's so much more in your control and so much more fulfilling, as we've been mentioning time and time again. And so I think that's another reason why it's just fun. I know you mentioned fun at the beginning, and maybe most of the viewers won't agree, but it really is, and inspiring too. I remember I was moved by this guy, and I don't know if he was just trying to be silly or trying to be seen, or if he was had a purpose in this. But he during the half marathon, he had like a flag, an American flag that he was running with. And maybe he was doing it for military purposes or whatever. But I was like so inspired. I was just like, all these people are just like running together, like we're unified. This guy's got like an American flag, like like it was. I wasn't expecting it, because I think prior to then it was the competition. Growing up playing sports, the competition was in my mind. But there's definitely, yeah, a shift, like we've talked about, with kind of the feel and the experience in general. So I mean, I don't know if I'm recommending anybody to go and do it. I feel like if you want to do it, then do it. But if you don't want to do it, then don't do it, because it does require a lot of work. It does require, like, you can't, like, I would never recommend someone just get up off their couch after listening to this podcast and go run a marathon. Like, absolutely not. Like,
No, no, that would be very unhealthy.
make
Don't
sure you put in the
literally don't
time and
do
effort.
that.
Yeah,
Do
absolutely don't do
something
that.
shorter, but yeah.
But it is fun. It is fun. It is rewarding, and life changing, perhaps. It is what you
I
make
mean,
it.
absolutely. Again, it's so cheesy because I don't want my life to look like a sports drama, but it did change my life. Last year was one of the best years of my life, and I think one of like the crowning things that happened that year was that I finished that marathon. I don't know if I'll do one this year, but it was something to really, really good way of rounding out the year, and it did change my life. I think lots of good things happened after that. So
So if you want to change your life, run a marathon. No.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least, I think, if you want to change your life, then physical exercise is like the very literal way of doing that. You will lose weight. You will feel better. That's a pretty obvious sign of changing your life. I mean, I like to say that's my favorite part of living here in DC, is that it's so easy to go out and do things and be active. And that changed my life, like for the much better. I can't ever go back. I can't go back. I'd be pretty disgusted with myself if I did somehow. So,
Yeah, I mean, you make a very good point, and my mom was actually mentioning this earlier this week about how, I mean, whatever you do, wherever life takes you, get out and do some
yeah.
sort of exercise. I mean, we're
Mhm.
obviously, this episode we're talking about your triathlon and our experience with running marathons, and I think that's the extreme for most people. I think most people aren't. That's just not something they're gonna do. But I mean,
Mhm.
I've been thinking about pickleball. Pickleball's been on my mind lately. That is a very like easy sport to pick up. That's a very easy way to get active. My mom goes on these walks in the neighborhood. People walk their dogs. People play soccer, whatever it is. People go on bike rides. I know bike rides are very popular, kind of around the area I'm in, because they've put in a bunch of new trails out by this new highway they've built out here. And so, I mean, whatever it is, just get out and enjoy the weather. Well, it's kind of hot here right now, but I mean, enjoy the fresh
Yeah,
air and
yeah.
whatever moves
I
you. do
Yeah.
that.
I think honestly the hardest part of exercising is just finding a sport or an activity that you like to do. I think a lot of us have kind of pigeonholed ourselves into thinking that working out means going to the gym and lifting, and
Hmm.
I just don't have the physique for that. And I find it so boring. I just can't go to the gym. Um, and again, that goes with like so many other sports. Like biking was really the first sport that got me wanting to move out and do things on the regular, because I didn't really see it as exercise, rather something that was fun to check out. Right. When I first moved to DC, there was a lot of the city that I wanted to explore, and I didn't want to do that walking because I was too slow. And I didn't want to do it in a car because how can you explore a city in a car? Biking seemed like the perfect medium. And again, like I said before, as I explored the city, that just naturally transitioned into a workout, right? Now that I don't explore the city so much anymore, now that I'm more familiar with it, but I do have a lot of mental maps that I've made of like, these are some routes that I'll take over and over again.
Hmm.
These will be my workouts, but I've never considered them to be workouts because they were just fun. And so, once you can find that, once you do that matching between you and your special sport, I think really everything starts to fall into place. Um, and I can't tell you how to find that because it's kind of hard to look for it. It took me 23 years to do it. So, but it's out there. Your true sport is out there, and looks like it's going to be pickleball for most of the 18 to 35 demographic of the United States, the Gen Zers.
Yeah, man, it's pickleball is exploding. I mean, it's been exploding for years. Like, there's my whole family's really into it, and there's tournaments going on all the time. But I mean, yeah, whatever moves you, whatever. I know there's a lot of community stuff when it comes to there's like community bike groups, community run groups. There's like the pickleball community. Just whatever floats your boat. Yeah, maybe you're into boating. Maybe you're a kayaker. That's a whole different thing, with the upper body and whatnot. But yeah, I guess this episode really turned into a plug for getting up and exercising at least 30 minutes a day. Stay
Yeah, yeah.
healthy.
You spend so much time talking about extraordinary world class athletes. It's time to talk about the rest of us normies and we're essentially telling everyone here to touch grass for the first time, and then your life will change.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good point too. This episode is for you.
Yes.
it's for uh, it's for the everyday Joe and Jill and Logan and Kyle.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. Any last words about the triathlon that's coming up? About any of the things we've talked about? I know we've talked about some long endurance things, but I think a lot of my listeners, their endurance for my episodes is is not quite as long. So any final words for those who have stayed this long with us?
This long. Go outside and play, I guess. Find a group of friends that will do anything with you, as long as it's physical. I think it will make a pretty drastic change in your life. It definitely changed my life. That Yeah, like it seemed like a turning point in my life. I think there are points in my life that I'd say are like pivot points where I've kind of changed for the better. And I would say when I first got on that first bike ride, that kind of really changed everything. And so, I really encourage people to be able to kind of make those breakthroughs, right? To be able to find a sort of I don't know, a joie de vivre for exercise, because it's great. It's totally worth it, and I mean, your body will thank it. You'll like looking at yourself in the mirror. So that's I think we got to wrap up with that, right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. Get outside 30 minutes a day, find your sport, find your groove. Thank you, Logan, for joining us today. Best of luck in your triathlon.
I
July
will.
28th is what you said, right? July
July, the last
28th,
Saturday of July. Wish me
last
luck.
Saturday of July.
You know,
Wish him
it could
luck.
be. Yeah,
Wish him luck down
it
in
will
the
be.
comments below.
Yes, it'll be awfully hot. Maybe I'll live
Yeah.
stream it. I'll live stream the whole thing.
Dude,
Actually, I don't
absolutely,
know if
yeah.
they'll allow me to do that.
Do it with the GoPro.
Yeah, I don't know. See, this is here weird. The weird rule is that you can't have headphones on
Yeah.
during the triathlon.
Hmm.
Even the parts where you're not in water. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you can have any electronics, but it'd be pretty cool if I was able to live stream the whole thing. But I don't think I'll be able to this time, unfortunately.
Not this time. Well,
Yeah.
darn. Well, we'll be wishing you best of luck. I'm doing two halves this year. My first one is July 20th. So that's coming up in about a month, and then I'll do the St. George one again as well. So a lot
Uh,
of good things. A lot of good things this year. All the best,
yeah.
hopefully, for us
Are
as
you gonna
we
live stream your half marathon?
No, I usually don't run like I always run with headphones, but I usually don't race with headphones.
Mm,
But for the half marathon, I'm like running 13 miles with just my thoughts probably isn't good. So I did I did implement the headphones. I don't know. No, I don't think I'll live stream it. I was thinking about doing some like making a YouTube
vlog it.
video. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Where I,
Hmm.
do a pre and then a post and maybe even pretend to like interview myself after the race. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll try to have some fun with that. That does bring up an interesting idea. I know a lot of you, all eight of you actually, who follow me, really do appreciate those non-sport videos that I used to do. So let me know if you guys like those and want to see more of those. I've been thinking about doing some just to spice up the channel a little bit. But let me know down below if you want. But thank you guys for joining on this special edition of Fan Talk with Logan Burton and me, of course, Kyle Brunchley. Again, you can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Amazon, anywhere you get your podcasts. I am there. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Fan Talk. Thanks again, guys. Have a great one.